Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have the head of state returns to the capital after taking part in the U.S.-Africa Summit. The reception in honor of young compatriot who won medals at the 12th CGSOE Games. For the international scene, the United Arab Emirates launched its first Mars mission space. Welcome to our newsroom concerning the World Cup 2022. Argentina won became the champions of the world of the World Cup 2022 in Qatar. The President of the Republic returns to the country after a double mission abroad. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, returned to the country this Sunday early evening at the end of a double mission that took him successively to Riyadh and Washington. In Washington, the last stage of his trip abroad, the President of the Republic had participated in the work of the U.S.-Africa Summit devoted to the strengthening an economic partnership and a more efficient solidarity between the two parties. This summit resulted in the joint commitment of the United States and Africa to intensify their collaborations on climate crisis, the strengthening of health systems, and the consolidation peace and global security. The head of state also took advantage of this summit to meet on the sidelines with several American leaders in order to promote and develop the already privileged ties between the two nations. In Riyadh, the first stage of his dual missions, he took part in the Sino-Arab Summit dedicated to the launch of the strategic partnership in all sectors of development between the two orders. He had on the sidelines of this summit also had a series of bilateral meetings, including with the key political leaders of the host countries, including the Crown Prince of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman. It should also be noted that as part of this trip to Riyadh, he had a separate meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, took part in the work of the U.S.-Africa Summit, which took place in Washington from 13 to 15 December 2022. Highlights of this summit meeting and U.S. Listen to Hidayah Mohammed Abdullahi.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, took part in the work of the United States-Africa Summit, which took place in Washington from 13 to 15 December 2022. Highlight of this summit meeting between the United States and Africa, Thursday hosted a meeting dedicated to strengthening an economic partnership between the two orders based on cooperation around the Agenda 2063, the gradual development plan that the Pan-African Organization aims for its member states. In this part of the work, the exchanges have focused on the mechanism of collaboration of the Agenda 2063. They were then devoted to the identification of a preliminary series of themes around which the two parties have an immediate vocation to collaborate: technical and industrial cooperation, financing of major development projects, strengthening the level of economic and trade exchange, particularly through the establishment of preferential agreements. The development of the private sector are all sectoral poles defined to provide sustainable development in the continent, and which consequently have a highly established profile to tie up with variable partnerships, including American, to have the growth they are expected in Africa. As a sign of the determination of both parties to intensify their cooperation, this meeting resulted in the appointment of a U.S. ambassador in charge of following up on the commitment made by his country in the context of this Africa-America Summit. And the announcement of separate funds of $55 billion and $15 billion, respectively, for strategic investments in public cooperation and in the private sector. The revelation of a forthcoming visit to the continent by U.S. President Joe Biden also adds to the wide range of measures adopted at the summit, moving the U.S.-Africa relationship to a new level. As for the American plea during the summit for greater representation of Africa in the world's major forums, including the United Nations Security Council and the G20, it gave the contours of a sustainable diplomacy of solidarity in the making between the two orders. This is a resolution of the summit which states the commitment of the United States to work for greater representation of Africa in international bodies, including in international governance. In addition to economic cooperation and investment, collaboration on food security was the second theme of the third day of the US-Africa Summit. This choice, no doubt in view of the accurateness of the notion in the current concern of almost all contemporary societies, direct consequences of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The problem of food security also finds its origin through the volatility of prices subsidiary to repeated shocks increasingly widespread in the world, highlighted this working session. It did not fail to mention the phenomenon of climate change as another major source of food insecurity in many societies, especially in Africa. In this working session, President Gele immediately emphasized the crucial nature of concept of food security, demonstrating the potential for strategic cooperation. Food security inherited a $2.5 billion portfolio at the end of the Africa-US Summit, as well as an efficient collaboration to alleviate the food crisis. It should be noted that this summit also resulted to the joint commitment of the United States and Africa to strengthen their partnership to meet the challenges and better exploit common opportunities, including the deepening of their cooperation in the areas of technology, cybersecurity, trade, the economy, environmental protection, and the resolution of international problems. The two orders have especially agreed to intensify their collaboration on climate crisis in strengthening health systems, consolidating peace and security, and building a strong and inclusive global economy.
The Minister Delegate in charge of Digital Economy and Innovation, Ms. Mariam Hamadou Ali, has made a study trip to Marseille, France from December 12 to 14, 2022. She was accompanied by a large delegation, including her collaborators, the Director of Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti, Dr. Slim Feriani, the General Director of the Ports of the Djibouti Port Community System, Mr. Warsam Aguirre, the Director of Business Development Authority, Ms. Hamda Hussein Farah. This visit is part of the implementation of the roadmap Smart Nation. Is more specifically, it addresses the implementation of a green data city and a smart port in Djibouti, which are key projects in the strategy of Djiboutian government for the development of the digital economy. These meetings have helped to better understand the successful models of Marseille, similar to Djibouti, both in terms of geolocations and digital infrastructure. Among the advantages of Marseille are the cables that have strengthened the city's position as a hub for data exchange. Today, Marseille is the seventh largest internet hub in the world, with 4 data centers and 16 submarine cables, and aims to be among the top 5 internet hubs in the world. Data centers are now critical infrastructure essential for the digital transformations of a country, and also the digital factory of the future, both creators of employment and wealth, but also attractive to investors. The Secretary of State in charge of sports, His Excellency Hassan Mohammed Kamil, surrounded by senior officials of his department, in this case the Inspector General, the Secretary Generals, and the Director General of INPF, the General Directors of Sports, the Director of the regions, and his close advisors in sport, organized a reception in honor of young winners, girls and boys medalists at the 12th CGSOE game held from 4 to 12 December in Mauritius. This ceremony held at the School of Sport Studies of Ali Sabi have also seen the participation of the authorities of the region, namely the Prefect of the region, Musa Adan Migane, the President of the Regional Council, Sharmaki Hassan Allale, Parliamentarian of the region, Honorable Almi Mahabi Wa'ais, and Honorable Abdosiki Diriye. This reception was aimed at rewarding and congratulating the young athletes and coaches who have distinguished themselves during this regional competition is dedicated to young people under 17 years of age of the member countries of the CGSOE, namely Mauritius, Seychelles, Comoros, Réunion, Mayotte, Madagascar, and Djibouti. It was also an opportunity to encourage those of their colleagues who participated in these games but did not medals by giving them as a sign of recognition of their efforts were like their peers. It is important to remember that these young people were at the foot of the podiums and were eliminated in the semi-finals. The choice of the School of Sport Studies of Ali Sabih is not like the fruit of a chance, but a full. First of all, 7 of the 10 medalists are young people in training in this center. Thus, the honors goes to this sports institution that has not ceased to train elite athletes since its creation by His Excellency the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh. On his side, the prefect of the region, Musa Adan Mikane, congratulated and thanked the young sportsmen and women who have distinguished themselves during this regional competitions and emphasized that all the merit belongs to His Excellency, the President of the Republic. The Secretary of State in charge of sports, Hassan Mohammed Kamil, said he was pleased with the performance of our young athletes. He added that these medals are and the titles are not the fruit of chance, but they are an indication that the young Djiboutian people had a good preparation. He believes that we must believe in training, which he said is the key to any success. In conclusion, the Secretary of State thanked the young athletes for having raised the national flag and the coaches and officials of this department, of his department, for having so well supervised these young people during their long stays in Mauritius. As part of the tree planting programs, the Ministry of Agriculture, Water, Fishery, Livestock, and Fishery Resources informs the population, as well as public and private institutions, to send-ins available at the Damerjog Nurseries Arta. In case you are interested in these plants, we kindly ask you to contact the Directorate of Agriculture and Forestry. The ceremony of the laying of foundations of stone of the construction project of the elementary school of Hibale in the regions of Arta upon his arrival, His Excellency Utsuka Omio, Ambassador of Japan to Djibouti, accompanied by several members of the Embassy of Japan, was welcomed by the prefect of the region, Ibrahim Mohammed Sheikh Hassan, the president of the region, Ilmi Bouha, and the members of the parliament, the Director General of Education of MENFOP, the Directors of Project of MENFOP, the Director of Human Resources, the Secretary General of the Association, Synergie Rurale, Mr. Hassan Miguel Ataya. After the speeches of the personalities, the delegation had the opportunity to lay the foundation stones of the national, of the schools, and welcomed in turn of the ambassadors offered himself a crowd, and after a few well words, the figures had the laying of the foundation stone. The ceremony ended with the traditional songs and dances. For his part, the Japan ambassador to Djibouti, Utsuka Omio, said that the foundation stone of basic school, which will bring the offer of education closer to the rural population. This project will allow the inhabitants of the locality of Hilbale, Beita, Musature, and Jirmale to find a school close to their homes. Equal access is a necessary condition for equal opportunity. For his part, the General Director of Education, Mr. Abdi Dirir, said that for his part, the foundation stone of basic education, basic school, which will bring the offer of education closer to the rural population. This project will allow the inhabitants of the locality to find a school close to their homes. Equal access is a necessary condition for equal opportunities. The Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training organized the celebrations of the World Day of Arabic Languages in the School of Irshad. In addition to the directors of the school, Ms. Halima Muhammad Uthman, and his administrationist, the chairman of the board of the director, Mr. Qasim Ali, the representative of Minfab, Muhammad Musa, distinguished guests took part in the ceremony. Distinguished guests and a large audience have filled the ceremony, which was placed this year under the theme of the day was the Arabic languages and science. A beautiful cultural animation is followed by short films on the progress of the teachings of Arabic. Opened the ball. Then it was the officials who spoke, starting with the poet Ibrahim Dawood and writer Mahmoud Shami, who praised it at length. The Arabic languages and a beautiful language is rich in its peculiarity. They especially emphasize the fact of that it is the languages of the Holy Quran, and it enjoys the divine seals and its protection for the holy revelation. As the minister said last year, that the Arabic language was the languages of science and cultures, and that under his leadership, his department was making every effort to develop the Arabic language in both public and private schools. He even announced the workshop to further reforms and improve the teaching of Arabic language. The ceremony ended with the awarding of distinction and some prizes to students who have obtained good grades. As part of the national response to the recent outbreak of seasonal fevers, frontline health care workers in Djibouti's hospital and 5 polyclinics have received refreshers and awareness training to ensure better management of the fever cases. The training was conducted by national experts in infectious disease and biology of the biology commitment to the spray actions and to the destructions of the larvae breeding grounds. This training series will aim at popularizing the therapeutic protocols and the clinical pictures in order to improve the diagnosis as well as the management of the cases of influenza and fever. This training series also includes some modules on the management of the emergency and outpatient circuit through the harmonizations of care algorithms for the different types of fevers at the national level. This training of caregivers goes hand in hand with the strengthening of the referral and counter-referral strategy to ensure better collaboration between health facilities throughout the country. As part of the bilateral cooperation agreement between U.S. government and the government of Djibouti in strengthening the capacity of associations in Djibouti, support a project for civil society engagement in the local development process, USAID through the Kaizen Company organized a 4-day workshop at the Gulf Hotel in Tajura on the self-assessment of the skills of civil society organizations and regional councils in the north. The objective of the workshop is to develop a participatory process of defining the vision, mission, values, guiding principles, and strategic directions of the regional councils and associations of the north in order to facilitate the analysis of intervention and interactions of stakeholders in the field of local development of the region. The workshop concluded with the awarding of certificate to participants by various representatives of local authorities of the region of Tajura. Present were the Deputy Prefect of Tajura, Habib Jilani, the President of the Regional Council of Obok, Muhammad Hamad Ismail, the Vice President of the Regional Council of Tajura, Mr. Abdul Umar Abdul Qadir, the Vice President of the Regional Council of Obok, Mr. Ahmed Ali Sheikh, the representative of the Ministry of Women and Family, the partnership specialists of UNICEF, the project managers and the deputy project managers of the Kaizen Company, the representative of the 10 associations of Tajura and Obok, as well as the local elected officials of the 2 regions. During the day of December 16, 2022, the Djibouti Coast Guard Maritime Surveillance Patrol Team assisted an overloaded Galba type of boat carrying illegal migrants near Gehere. In fact, in their greed and exploitations of human distress, traffickers have loaded 253 illegal migrants of Ethiopian origin, including 97 98 women onto a single boat, such as an overload on such a small boat, would inevitably cause the sinking of the boat and large numbers of deaths. The interventions of the Djibouti Coast Guard team prevented a tragedy and saved the lives of migrants who were then escorted safely to Djibouti, where they received humanitarian assistance in water and food before being handed over to the competent authorities for the repatriations to their countries of origin. 4 Yemeni smugglers were arrested and handed over to the Djibouti Coast Guard Research, Investigation and Judicial Affairs Brigade to be brought to justice. The weather tropical depression is over the Arabian Sea. The last 3 days satellite images and weather forecasts show the development of a deepening of the tropical depression centered in the southeast of the Arabian Sea into the deep west-southwest moving tropical depression heading to the Omani coast. According to the latest images and analysis, the world market depressions in the Arabian Sea currently persist centered at 30.9 latitude north and 61.4 longitude east, and the wind speed is estimated around the centers of 65 to 70 kilometers. It is likely to move to the west-southwest and slowly weakens over the same area. These depressions will not reach our maritime coast, and we are safe from the danger. The youth training centers of the Republican Guard organized on Saturday, December 17, 2022, the World Cup for youth under 30 years and under 11 years. The World Cup had a double objective: is that to make to the young people a sensation similar to the present World Cup of Qatar 2022, to give an outlines of the perspectives for the preparations of the World People's Paris 2023, where the detection is always continuous. The children had the same enthusiasm, and some burns with joy, while others, certainly affected by the defeat, have still applauded the success of their friends, thanks to Colonel Mohammed Jama Douale, commander of the Republican Guard, and the few sponsors where we were able to reward the most deserving youngsters only for their victories, but also for the educational values conveyed by the training centers, which are respect, fair play, surpassing oneself, perseverance, and above all, sharing. Like other sites in the capitals and the region, the fan zones of Gulf Football Djibouti, located in the Iran, broadcast every evening in the highlight of the World Cup. The finals of the World Cup Qatar 2022 started well between the Argentina team and French team, who came out of a lot to reach the finals. During the first half, Argentina of Messi took the lead with 2 goals, one scored on penalty by Messi and the second goals by Di Maria. The Djiboutian population is following the Qatar 2022 final on big screens in the different fan zones installed in the capital, especially at the Goulet Stadium and at the French Institute. Not as officials of the Goulet Stadiums, including the Minister of Youth and the main officials of the Ministry of Sports at the Goulet Stadium, a very large crowd of football lovers, mostly young people, followed the final match between Argentina with Messi and Di Maria, and France with Mbappe, Giroud, and Hugo Lloris. France equalized it at the end of the second half with a penalty, and the score. The World Cup was won by Argentina by 4 gold to 2. For the international scene, Emirates missions to Mars scientific and economic benefits more than a year and a half ago. In February 2021, the United Arab Emirates Mars missions reached in the red planet by placing its probe into the orbit. The UAE became the first Arab nations to reach Mars and the fifth countries to study its climate after 6 years of planning at the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center in Dubai. The mission's success has fueled innovations in other areas, says Ibrahim Al Qasim, Deputy Director General of the UAE Space Agency. Mars was chosen because it is a planet of great interest to the global scientific communities, and we wanted to send a mission that complements the previous ones and looks more deeply into the relationship between the upper and middle layers of Mars atmospheres. He explains the UAE inserted Hope around Mars 7 months after the mission is lifted off in Japan on July 2020. The spacecraft is currently in orbit for 1 Martian year, the equivalent of 687 days on Earth. It is also the first time the international scientific community has had a complete view of the Martian atmospheres at the different times of the day during different seasons. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.